Kwang and the monastics here who have provided this space here for us to meet and allowed us to have these meetings on a regular basis. I think one of the changes we're going to be doing here, the monks, the monastics here have asked us to start our service with the repetition of Sakyamuni Buddha's name 3 times the way they do during the usual service. So how are we supposed to do that now? Do we start it when we start the meditation?
I think we would start it now, so we'd go ahead and...
So
maybe we'll ring the bell, and then we'll... Yeah.
So let me explain for any rituals during the Buddhism 101. The intention is to find a balance between respecting the traditions of this temple, but also respecting your status as just curious, or just students, or just wondering about Buddhism. So if ever we engage in a ritual that you're not comfortable with, then just sit there silently, allow us to do it, but do not feel obligated to participate. So if you feel like you want to, feel free to do so. Otherwise, just be patient with those of us who are doing it. For this ritual, for those of you who don't know, what we typically do as a start to the ceremonies is that we'll put our hands in the lotus position, and then we'll invoke the name of Buddha 3 times. We'll say, Namo Sakyamuni Buddha, and we'll chant it. The Buddha is dead, so we don't feel like we're praying to a God or a Buddha or something, and he's going to answer our prayers. The reason we invoke the name is to show a sign of respect for his teachings, for him as a teacher, and to help us sort of try to get in the right frame of mind. So it's nothing magical, although it can be for some people. We're not casting spells or anything like that. It's just more of a way of preparing the mind, preparing the body with these rituals for sharing the Dharma.
Please join me in reciting the Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.
So today will be our first Tuesday service. What we'll be doing is we will do a meditation. During the meditation, there are 3 techniques that we usually recommend to anyone who has not meditated before. If you have your own meditation practice and it's something that can be done silently in the group, by all means do your meditation practice. If you want to learn or you want to experiment with other ways of meditating, the 3 that we usually teach here are 1, simply focus on the sensation of breathing. It's one of the oldest forms of teaching meditation, probably even predating Buddhism. And it's just sort of focusing on the sensations and the mechanics of breathing. Feel the air enter through your nostrils, hitting the back of your throats, filling your lungs, and then as you exhale, feeling all that in reverse. So just focus on the sensations of breathing. The other technique that we teach is to simply count the breaths. Count from 1 to 10, and then when you get to 10, start over again with 1. If you lose your count along the way because you got distracted or other things going on, simply start up again with 1. And finally, the third one is to have a mantra or a gatha, a word or phrase that you repeat over and over again. One that I usually recommend, that comes from Thich Nhat Hanh, is as you're inhaling, you're going to say, breathing in, I calm my mind. Breathing out, I smile. And you try to have a half smile on your face. So whichever technique you choose, just stick with that for about 10 minutes that we'll be meditating. Inevitably, If you are a human being, which I think all of you are, then you're going to have moments of distractions. You're going to have moments when thoughts, feelings will start to pop up. The practice of meditation is catching yourself in those distractions and recentering on the focus, whether it be the counting, the breath, or the mantra or kata. This refocusing, this act of catching yourself being distracted and refocusing develops the parts of your brain that are in charge of meditation. And so don't be angry at yourself if you're distracted. Don't get frustrated with yourself. This is you developing another part of your brain that may not have been as well developed. So this is the practice of meditation. After our 10 minutes of meditation, then I'll give a short Dharma talk. Today we're going to be talking about right livelihood, which is the third of the morality pathway. That's also part of the larger Eightfold Noble Path, which we will be then discussing a month for the next few months. After my short discussion, then we'll just open it up for comments, questions, insights you may have had. As Venerable Quan Tri likes to say, emotional outbursts. And so just it's a time to share in community. Okay? So get in a position that's comfortable. And let's do our short meditation. So we've been talking about the Noble Eightfold Path, which is the description that Buddha gave for undoing the suffering in our lives. And under those 8, there are 3 sections, and the one we've been covering so far have been the section that's typically called the path of morality. And underneath the path of morality was right action, right speech, and today, right livelihood. Now remind yourselves that the role or the goal of this path of morality is if we can get our lives and our actions in tune with a good life, then it becomes easier to engage in the other paths. Easier to engage in meditation, having good insight and concentration and all the other eightfold paths. So it's a way of sort of preparing the mind, the body, the heart, the soul, the spirit to partake of the insights and the wisdom that come with following the Eightfold Noble Path. And the other benefit of living a moral life, is that if you're living a good life, you have less to worry about. The simple example we gave when we're talking about right speech is like if you don't lie, you don't have to remember the lie. And it's just easier to speak. So, living a good life, living a moral life, it's not about right or wrong. It's not about damnation or achieving some great heaven. The idea simply is that living a good life will be easier, will reduce suffering, and will prepare you for greater insights and greater wisdom. In a nutshell, that's it. We're trying to live a good life because it just feels better. We'll suffer less. Period. So right livelihood. Right livelihood was Buddha's discussion on basically what your job is, what your part is in the society. And he discussed, and if I boil down the lessons basically boil down to a job that is in line with compassion and does not create more suffering, and a job that contributes to society, a more positive interaction to society. And that's, in a nutshell, that's it. More compassionate, in line with compassion, and contributes positively to society. So let's talk first about what jobs not to do. You want to avoid jobs that involve exploitation, dishonesty, fraud, or misuse of natural resources. I'll repeat that again. Exploitation, dishonesty, fraud, or misuse of natural resources. And there were 3, sometimes 4 jobs that typically you will see discussed in the sutras, the scriptures, the Buddhist holy writings, that are definitely not right livelihood. So these were slave trade or human trafficking, arms dealing, and then dealings in poisons and intoxicants. These were things that weren't in line with compassion and would create more suffering, was the idea. Sometimes you will see listed also the idea, the livelihood of being a soldier, which is a little controversial, but you will see also in other writings that the soldier who defends is right livelihood. And so there's sort of that wavering, I guess, and you'll see different sutras mentioned in different ways. But more important than the job itself is what's the job resulting in? That's kind of what really boils down to, is it a good job or not? Is it a good livelihood or not? We have to keep in mind that some jobs can be stereotypically can be in this way, but sometimes these jobs can be done in ways that are healthier. I was a salesperson for a while. And I remember that when I first started in sales, I was not forced into it. I took the job because there was a recession coming, and if I didn't get a job soon, I was not going to have a job for my family. So I took a job in sales, and I was worried because I thought sales was something exploitative. I was going to be taking advantage of people. And that definitely can be part of sales. So I wondered, how am I going to do this job and not be exploitative, not be fraudulent, right? Not be dishonest. And I realized that I took the approach of being a consultant, someone that was sharing knowledge about the product that we were selling, someone who was actually looking for what are the needs of the customer, how do the products fit the needs of the customer, how do they not, and be honest about that. That my conscience was at ease because I was not being dishonest, I wasn't being fraudulent, I wasn't being exploitative. I was being a resource of information. And it worked. I was a pretty good salesperson because I wasn't using those fraudulent, dishonest techniques. So it's not the job per se, it's how you do the job and what are the results of that job. What are the jobs, what energies is that job putting out there? So then let's flip it around. So what do we want to see in a job? Right? So these are things to consider. Maybe think about your jobs, past jobs, current jobs, maybe jobs that you have as a goal for your future. Ask yourself, how are you contributing to society? How are you contributing to your own growth as a Buddhist student? How are you contributing to reducing suffering in the world? Before we started today, I asked you all to consider this quote that I recently heard. If you can't be passionate about your job, be passionate about why you do it. So if you can't be passionate about your job, if you just don't like your job, then why are you doing it? For supporting my family, because I want to save enough money that I can retire and dedicate my life to service, because I want to whatever. So if you can be passionate about the reason why you're doing a job, then it makes it easier to engage in that job. And if you can find ways that your job are contributing to society, is reducing suffering, and making you a better Buddhist student, then it makes it easier to do the job. If you do the job just for the money, many of us have already learned that's usually not a good enough reason. Eventually, we get tired of that. If you do it for the prestige, eventually you'll learn one way or the other that the prestige is fleeting. It doesn't last. But you could be engaging in the exact same job you're in right now, but now do it because you're mindful of how you're contributing to society. Now do that job because you're mindful of how it's reducing suffering in yourself and in others. Now being mindful of how it's making you a better student of life. And it becomes a little easier to be passionate about a job because you know the whys. You know why you're doing it now. So for me, right livelihood is oftentimes just expressed as don't do these jobs, right? Don't do trafficking, slavery, don't sell alcohol and drugs, don't be an assassin, things like that. But when you look more deeply into the meaning of right livelihood, it's more than just thou shalt not. It's also about how you engage in your jobs. And it's not just the paying jobs, cleaning your home, caring for an elderly. Anything that requires work, how you approach that work really influences the quality of your work and your experience of that work. It's one of the reasons why we have work days, meditation work retreats here. It's one of the reasons why so many people volunteer here, because it's part of their practice. It's part of their right livelihood. It's part of my right livelihood. That's why I'm here teaching. One final thing. We humans, and I say this a lot, we humans rarely do anything for one reason. We like to think, oh, I do it because of this. Yes, and we usually do it for more than one reason. So don't be hard on yourself if you can't do a job purely because it's the right Buddhist thing to do. If you can't do it for purely good Buddhist reasons, as long as it's in the mix, that's a start. If I can do it because I reduce suffering in at least one person, that's a start. If I can do it because it shows compassion for the world or for myself, and it makes me good money, well, at least that's a start. And as you begin to develop this path of morality and get started, even if it's just by a little bit, slowly that builds up on itself and it becomes easier and easier to live this lifestyle. To question, do I really want to do something that I know is not good for me? Try this out for this next month. Do your job because it somehow alleviates suffering in the world. Do this job because it supports your family or yourself. Do the job because it's compassionate in some way. Do the job because it's contributing to society. And pay attention to how it feels when you do work for those reasons. Thank you very much. So now we just open it up. Thoughts, questions, insights, whatever you want to talk about. So the class, this particular Buddhism 101 is the first and third Tuesday of every month. The first Tuesday of the month usually is this with the Dharma talk. And the third Tuesday of the month is usually a parable. And Leon usually leads that group. We try as much as possible to pick a parable that fits with the teaching from early in the month, but it's not always, it doesn't always fit out. But it's always, so far I've liked all the stories that Leon has picked.
One of the things I've noticed is that it's just, we talk about how the Noble Eightfold Path, they're not eight separate things that exist in themselves. They all interrelate and they're all part of each other. So that's always comes to mind in that case.
Heard you guys mentioned before work meditation. What does that mean?
So here at the temple they'll have a weekend or they'll have a day and you can come in and the monastics will have different tasks that need to be done around the temple for the caretaking of the grounds. It's only 3 of them. You know, one of them is in his 80s. So there's a lot of work that can't be done. But at the same time, it's not just about free labor. Like if you're just here because you feel obligated, they'll shoo you out. You know, that's not why we want you here, because you feel obligated. Work meditation is then understanding that what you're doing in the cushion, the meditation we did today for 10 minutes, is something that we should be bringing into our regular daily life all day long. So can we do the work in a meditative way? Can we be mindful and present? Or are we going to start thinking about what I have to do tomorrow? So even the work that you do can be a practice of meditation, a practice of mindfulness. It doesn't even have to be here. If you have to change the battery in your car, if you have to paint something in the house, if you need to sew something, cook something, whatever chores at home can be working meditation. It's the act of being mindful of the work and its relationship to everything else. Does that answer your question?
Quang Tri uses cooking as a good example. You can stand in the kitchen and put the pot on the stove and just throw stuff in there and have your mind somewhere else, and it's not going to be very good. But if you really focus and you're careful about what you're doing and you put your intent into it, it makes the food better, and people can really tell that. There was another good example. Thich Nhat Hanh talks about washing dishes. And he said, as you're washing dishes, everybody says, that's just a terrible chore. I just want it over as quick as possible. But he says, no, as you pick up each dish, each glass, hold it as if it's the baby Buddha. Just be really focused on each movement. So I think his point is that even in the mundane things we do, we can find spiritual meaning in them if we're present with it. So.
And even in the practical sense, remember, there's a part of your brain that is growing each time you meditate. And if you're only doing it once a week when you come here, you're not going to see much progress. But if you take the meditation from here, the lessons from here, and practice them throughout your daily life, just like any skill that we learn, the more we practice it, the better we get at it. The more that part of the brain will develop, and the easier it will be to engage in being present, being mindful, not being hijacked by our emotions. So I think that's one of the things from the right livelihood. That we really want to take this practice into the world, not just in these 4 walls.
So Buddhism is more practice than religion.
Both, and it really depends on where you're at. You know, in some cultures it's more of a religion and the Buddha is seen as a god. In other cultures, and mostly here in and definitely here in the United States, Buddhism is more of a philosophy and a psychology. That's what's emphasized. And so it's in here, the way we practice it, it's more of a practice. But it's important to be mindful that it's not the same for everyone. Think of a job you struggled with. Think of a job that was very hard for you. How would your understanding of that experience change if you take today's lessons and apply to it?
It's very funny in my case. Every job that I had just came to me, and I always enjoyed the jobs. It was not always a good money, but my first job was milking cows. I enjoyed it so much. I was very young, and they needed help that Sunday. It was my friend's farm, and we used to go to, take a cup of warm milk, and they invited me. I asked them, do you need help? Yes, and they taught me how, and then I liked the fact they were giving me money. So my first money, I spent it in lots of chocolates. So I try to, I don't know, I just enjoy it that. Right now my passion is working with children. Also, it's not a lot of money, but I think we have to find a way to find the freedom of financial. So I combine it with the little I make, save it, and flip cars. Buy them as they are with 2 more people. It's 3. It's 3 that we're doing it. And just find, how you can invest the little you make. And then quarantine hit, I was laid off because I go through private daycares. I teach extracurricular activities. I applied for 50 jobs. The first job that hired me was shipped company. It's buying groceries and deliver them. So during those 3 years, believe it or not, I upgrade my lifestyle. It gave me more income, and I still keep that job. So I have 3 part-time jobs. I don't work 40 hours a week. I work less. So I do the shift, my extracurricular with my children because I love working with children. So, and I flip cars, maybe 1 or 2 cars a month. So always try to find. And now I'm studying the Robinhood app, which is, invest a little, 10 cents, $50, $20. Just kind of search and learn, always learn. And you find your passion, but then you have to kind of try to flip your money. It's important because we live in a society where
And if you read more of the sutras, you'll see that Buddhism isn't anti-business. And one of the more popular sutras, the Sutra of Vimalakirti, was a businessman who was more enlightened and wiser than the disciples of the Buddha. And the whole sutra or a good chunk of the sutra are the different disciples of the Buddha saying, no, I don't want to go visit him. I get embarrassed every time I visit him. And so in this sutra, here's a businessman who is held to a very high, who lives a very good lifestyle, is also very wise. So it's not the business, it's not money, it's what you do with it, the intent. For the majority of people, a simple lifestyle is a lot easier for a practice. But it's not the only way. It's the intent. That one? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know all the different names of all of them.
Those are the Dharma guarding Devas. Deva guarding Bodhisattvas. So if you notice, this one over here is very fierce looking. This one over here is very handsome and welcoming. So the idea is that there's one that will repel negativity, negative people, and then this one will, if you're pure in heart, the symbolism is that this Deva guarding Bodhisattva welcomes you in. So again, you got to remember that there's a lot of symbolism, and it's not meant to be what's the word I'm looking for?
Literal?
Literal, not meant to be really literal thing. It's really what they represent. So what's the idea that as we practice, our practice gets stronger, one of the things you'll notice is that it will draw positive people, will be attracted to you. And the people who don't understand what you're saying and have no interest in it, they will fall away. So we each have our own Deva guarding bodhisattvas, that idea that we want to welcome the positive and the healthy, and we want to not allow the craziness and the insanity and the sickness of mind. We want to keep that at bay. So it's just kind of represents the play of inner and outer. There you have it. Test at 11. Well, think about what armor could represent other than the most obvious, which is, I got armor because I would like to go out and kill people. So it's just something to think about. I mean, as Quang Tri's told us, there's not one item or object in here that doesn't have some type of meaning behind it. Not that I'm not saying I know what they all are, but I think it's interesting because nothing's in here just because they wanted to put it here because, that'll look good over there. It's all really supposed to fit together.
Even the colors of the flowers have meaning. So in Buddhism, different colors have different meanings. You can look it up. It's easy to find on Google.
Right. I think that's one of the things that we're involved in now in the West is Buddhism came from the East, obviously, was born in Eastern culture, and a lot of the ritual and symbolism evolved there, and it's now moved from the East into Western countries. We don't have any experience with those, so a lot of this is new for us, right? So as I've learned about them, as I was saying before, there's something there that'll always represent something in your mind that you can focus on. It helps bring those positive things into your mind. And so the trick is to use the ritual to support your inner work, but not as in some religions where the ritual is that's all there is, right? It's just we're here to perform this ritual and that's it. So it's kind of like there's ritual, but it's not the important thing. We could be discussing Buddhism and the Dharma and the Eightfold Noble Path in a field without any of this. This isn't important. It's helpful, but it's not important. Ultimately, there are like thousands and thousands of books.
Ones that I recommend. If you like the writings of Thich Nhat Hanh or the Dalai Lama, those two are very prominent teachers. There's another one that I think is really good. It comes out of a temple in New York called Tree of Enlightenment. And if you do a Google search for Tree of Enlightenment PDF, you can download the book for free. So Tree of Enlightenment PDF, and it'll go from the history of Buddhism, sort of the two cultures that came together to in the Indus Valley that predated Buddhism and eventually led to Buddhism, all the way to discussing the Eightfold Noble Path, mindfulness, and all that. And I have a few other books. Another one that's useful, Mindfulness in Plain English. So I do Mindfulness in Plain English PDF, and you can download that one for free as well. So those are good starters that I usually recommend. Yeah, no, we need to write a Buddhism for Dummies.
A reading list.
A reading list might be good.
We'll put together a reading list. That's a good idea.
That's a good idea. Things that you might want to check out.
I thought it's time to pass out the Buddhist cheat sheet again, maybe too. The one that's got all the lists on it, the Four Noble Truths, the Three Refuges, Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Path. It goes on, but there's a bunch of lists in Buddhism. Having the cheat sheet's good because you can just kind of, oh yeah, that's what 7 meant.
Ultimately, use these things, participate in these things insofar as they help you on your journey. As long as they help you reduce suffering in yourself and others. But the moment they become obstacles, drop them. I don't remember the full details of the story, but I remember part of the story was, once you've used a raft to cross the river, you don't keep the raft with you as you go up the mountain. So use the raft as long as it helps you get across the river, but once the raft is no longer needed, leave it behind and continue your journey. That goes for everything, even this class. Use this class insofar as it helps you. If you continue to feel personal growth, continue to feel like you are challenged, fantastic, keep coming. But once you've finished with this raft, leave it behind.
And it applies like in just everything, including relationships and
Rituals, jobs, anything.
people, friends.
Social media, you name it.
Yes, it's a good example.
Participate in it only insofar as it helps you and others reduce suffering.
It's about charity also, because I do charity. I offer my time sometimes, and to people that I know that really, really need it. So it can be $50. The people that I know that they're like in need. I have never donated amounts to any corporation or shelter or anything. I go and teach cultural dance or variety of sports. So that's what I do. Of course, chores at the house. It's just so important, especially washing dishes. It's something about it when you're in your home. We are three-dimensional, and we have to work on them. We are spiritual, physical, and emotional. So we have to work with our physical, of course, good exercise habits, eating, spiritual, develop our spirituality, grow towards with God, and doing the right thing. Emotional, bring our virtues, killing ego, bringing our virtues. Ego, it represents anxiety, stress, depression, and all that. Virtues, love, compassion, helping. So we have to balance all that. Our home is a great, to involve that energy, because everything comes from home and departure from home.
Thank you.
So that probably we're out of time. So,
Anyone else?
I think I started to think, and I've been grappling with this because I know about the precepts and the intoxicants and how it's not supposed to be a thing. One of my side hustles is I'm a certified sommelier. And
Certified what?
Sommelier. Wine steward. Stewardess.
Yes, and so we were talking about that, and I thought, oh my gosh, I enjoy wine, and I love, and so I thought, it is a service, and it is something that, because a big part of the reason I do it is because when someone asks me to help them pick out a wine, I love to find out more about the person with whom I'm working, like, what are your favorite scents? Tell me first of all, not do you like dry, do you like sweet? Tell me what scents you enjoy. And I like going from there and kind of figuring out who they are as a person and presenting them, well, maybe you might want to try this. I think since you enjoy floral notes, since you enjoy jasmine, since you enjoy frankincense, since you enjoy the earth when you walk through the forest, you enjoy the wet earth floor, then you might like this. You're a hiker, you might like this. You like those kinds of scents. I just, when I do things involving wine and food, and I really like imparting my love for it. I think the food is my favorite art. It's the only art medium where you can use all the five senses to enjoy and partake in. So I really love when somebody else is happy about it and imparting that love and appreciation, because I think, wines, you appreciate the terroir, you appreciate everything about it, you appreciate the winemaker and the skill that they use and the love that they put into the product. And for me, it's not about, getting drunk, it's about just appreciating. And some people go as far as to use one nostril at a time because it incorporates different parts of your brain, and it smells different from each nostril. I know it looks really dumb doing it, but it's... So I guess I don't know if I'm rationalizing or if I'm just seeing the positivity or seeing the part of it that I'm supposed to relate to service to others.
So this is one of the tricky parts of Buddhism. Our minds want a simple yes, no. Good, bad. Healthy, unhealthy, realistic, unrealistic. We want to put things into categories. That's what our brain does. It does it really well. Buddhism challenges to go beyond those categories. And that's why you hear a lot of what's the intention underneath. Drinking wine can be an act of mindfulness, because you have to be mindful of its history, of its scent, all the senses, how it's made. So there's a lot of appreciation for and being present for that glass of wine. But wine can also be used to get drunk and to have drunk drivers and all that. And so Buddhism doesn't say bad, good, it just says what's the intention underneath? How is it unfolding? Is it contributing more to society than is it contributing positively to society? So the way you were describing it sounds like a very positive contribution. You're teaching people to be mindful of their senses, of the history, and to learn to appreciate the moment. But buy this wine because it's super cheap and will get you drunk in 1 hour. That's not contributing in a healthy way. So you're not going to find many simple answers in Buddhism.
Right.
It's going to be, and it's sometimes hard because I can't read your mind and see if your intentions that you're expressing are your honest truth. I trust you. So judging others and their intentions is very difficult. So you focus more on what are my intentions? And what are the results of my intentions? Am I creating more suffering? All right, so even though I had good intentions, the fruits of my labors are not positive, so I need to change something. It's not easy. Yes.
That's the key. Because our own bodies will tell us. It's like, okay, I feel the wine. That's very nice. And then a little while later, I'm having a little trouble walking, and then there's the next morning, right? So, your body will tell you, it's like, that's enough right there. And when the abbot talks about this, he knows modern society. He knows that generally lay practitioners are in a different situation than the monastics, right? They completely give it up because they are making that complete intentional vow to never touch a drop of alcohol. But he knows that's not so easy to do in regular life. So he'll talk about, let's say you go to a party and you're intending, you're not intending to drink, and then everybody's drinking and they go, oh, here you go. It's okay to accept that beer. Go, hey, you might take a couple of sips off of it, but just say, yeah, that's enough. And so you've participated in the ritual. You haven't said, no, I can't because I'm a Buddhist and I can't drink alcohol. I mean, that's one approach. I mean, that's as good too, but
I'm sure you would cut off someone who's probably doing too much.
right.
And so,
Yes.
I mean,
It's just a small yay. You wouldn't say, hey, have you thought about how you're going to get home?
So there's another thing where you are minimizing any of the suffering that might come.
Right.
Also from it. Or you may reach a point in your life where you realize, I no longer want to engage in this, which is something that could happen. You know what? I'm at a point in my practice now where this doesn't fit where I'm at. But for right now, it's okay. Like you feel like it's not hindering your practice. But be open to that might change later on.
I think it's a good idea that you're taking stock of what you're current reality and
Yes.
you're understanding and accepting that this is something you genuinely enjoy. And
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with my current reality is that I enjoy what I'm doing.
Yep.
And I have a pure love for it.
Yeah. I'm either saying yes or no. I'm just saying things to consider.
Yeah, but I think what you kind of hit the nail on the head when we're saying it's present in the moment, and like this is my presence in this moment. And I love when I can see someone else's face light up and say, I do taste chocolate in this, or I do taste that. And it's so crazy to me that grapes can have so many aromas and flavors.
It's good. And whenever I need to teach mindfulness to like younger, not young children, but like teenagers, stuff like that, I use chocolate. Like you're so used to just stuffing the whole Kit Kat in your mouth. What happens if you were to actually take a bite and just let it sit there and savor it and notice the textures?
But I want to gobble it. But I want to gobble
Now
it.
try a dark chocolate. This is a little more bitter. Let it sit there. Let it melt. What's it like? What's it activating? Do you still not like it? That's okay.
It's a perfect analogy.
So it's the same thing.
Because you can help people appreciate chocolate, but if they eat too much, they're not going to feel good.
That's right.
So I don't have a clock, but I see it's time.
I think it's time.
Yeah. So thank you very much. I hope that today's discussion was helpful. Take this next month to just really be mindful of the intention behind your work, whether it be your employment or whether it be work you do at home or you elsewhere. How are you contributing to society positively? How are you reducing suffering in yourself and others? And notice, how does it change how you do that job now, or how you approach that task? Does it reduce suffering because no longer you're like, oh, I gotta vacuum. I gotta vacuum all this. Why the kids are always messing? Or is it now a more pleasant activity? Good. Announcements. We have our usual Sunday service, 12:30 here in this room.
Saturday will be the meditation class.
And we have meditation class. Is it the just meditation one, or is he actually teaching?
It's the meditation teaching.
Yeah, I thought you said something about it.
That's at 10 o'clock
You're just
on
doing
Saturday.
You're just doing meditation.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, he stopped the teaching. But what we will get together for an hour of meditation.
Yes,
Thank you.
this Saturday. So the meditation 101, 201, whatever it was, the meditation classes are done for now until Venerable Quantry starts them up again, but he is still holding a meditation time. And so feel free to come on Saturdays, 10:30 a.m. 10 o'clock, thank you. 10 a.m. To just meditate with the group. And they'll give some simple instructions, but then it's just more about time to meditate together as a community.
Every Saturday?
I don't know, will it be every Saturday or is it still every other
It's
Saturday?
every Saturday.
Every Saturday?
Yes.
Okay, so every Saturday for right now. And then I know we have a few retreats coming up and work days, and those are announced on the meetup and on the Facebook
On the web,
page.
yes.
So that's
I would say
where
just
we-
check for the dates there. We have one of our retreats will be just a meditation retreat. It's going to go from, I believe it's 10 to 4, so it's just like a half day, and there'll be some Dharma talks and meditation, and then we'll have what we were talking about before, one of our work days coming up, and that'll be where we come in at 6 o'clock. We're here from 6 to 6, 12 hours. But the idea there is that you spend the whole day here in service, and we have a chance to interact with the monks and nuns, and it's a really nice experience. So just check the website. I'd throw out dates, but I wouldn't get them right. So
Check the website, check the Facebook page, check Meetup. The information will be there. All right, anything else?
I think that's it. I think we're ready to.
Let's just share the merit, and then we will head on out.
Do you want to say our Namo Shakyamuni Buddha?
Or do you do it
Do we do it afterward?
At the very end?
Okay.
I'll let you do it at the
Okay.
very end. So
All right.
I'm going to ring the bell. I'll ring the bell. I'll share the merit, and then Leon will lead us in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. You're free to go. May any merit we have accrued by sharing the Dharma here today bring us and others joy, safety, peace, and health.
And now, please join me in invoking the teacher's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
great
you.
rest of the week. And
See you in 2 weeks.